Hello, friends, and welcome back to Five Agendas. We did a special issue, number 6, for this month that we actually just sent out today. So, interestingly enough, today is the first time that the thought paper and the video have been published on the same day. So, I hope this will be a blessing as we continue to study the first angel's message and why it is so important. The title is Barren Theology. Now, what you'll notice first is this David Barren. Okay. Do you get the name with the title? Barren Theology? Okay. Maybe not yet, but you will. So you click on this link, okay, and it opens up this YouTube video. We're not going to play the whole thing for our video. You will need to go and watch this, but just real briefly, this is called, Is Christ God, Divine, Eternal? Now listen to what he says, and he's going to quote a verse. Notice what it is. And then for the rest of the video of 22 minutes, he denigrates John 1:1. Okay. When it comes to the doctrine of God, the presentation in the link above is deceptive and confusing rubbish. The speaker of this channel has rightly departed Laodicea, but is yet to realize he is still deeply trapped in the camp of the Trinitarian and Arian doctrine, all the while denouncing and trying to deny. In other presentations, he brings up the Trinitarian doctrine and counters with the eternal Son, and doesn't realize that he is the flip side of the eternal Son heresy of the Roman Catholic Church, which was either an emanation or a creation. Yes, a lot of difficulty. What is persistent is how John 1:1 is neglected, even though it was the first verse quoted. This is where John, under inspiration, defines the eternal identity of hologos, the Word. This, in fact, was the entire problem of the Alpha of Deadly Heresies that EGW trembled about, the Omega, and yet the Alpha problem in the midst of the 1888 General Conference was never corrected by EGW. Please see the series, The Root Problem of 1888. This thought paper is in the description box below. You just take that and you can see the series on this and the missing dimensions of Luke 21. It is worth your while, dear viewers, to watch the Ushering of Eternal Righteousness series, which is all about the Alpha and Omega of deadly heresies here. Then, of course, the speaker in the opening video makes extensive use of EGW to validate their platform. The speaker even uses John 1:1, and instead of applying what the text states, there was in beginning, no article, two divines. The speaker and his followers really get into theological difficulty. You may ask how? Oh, just merely misappropriating the incarnation, which means the omega scenario, and placing this upon Christ's eternal alpha identity, and worse, relies instinctively upon E.G.W. and Wagner Arian theology. An enormous problem exists for this ministry at the time of the Matthew 24:15, which is to explain Melchizedek of Hebrews 7:1-3, or why Christ said he was Alpha and Omega in Revelation 22:13-16, let alone Revelation 5 that declares the root and offspring of David. Your root and offspring, your Alpha and Omega. Again, watch the series Ushering of Eternal Righteousness. The speaker mentions that Christ is under God, which is simply the Omega scenario. If Christ took orders from Eternal Father number one, this is not proof of having been created or emanated, and contradicts John 1:1-14, Isaiah 9:6, and Revelation 22:16, as well as many others. He then attributes that Christ has a name much better than the angels. This is not referring to eternity, since Lucifer challenged the matter as a created being. The name Son was never given to angels, and the whole idea had nothing to do with heaven, or emanationism, or being a created being assigned to godhood. Nor is the concept of Son to be considered in John 1, because the context is verse 14. The monogenes theos, uniquely begotten God, which equals the incarnation, which is his Omega identity, not his Alpha identity. The matter of the greater name than the angels involved who would govern planet Earth, and as the psalm states, it wasn't the angels who would rule in the future world, but glorified humanity under Christ. See Psalms 8. He then brings in that Christ was made lower than the angels, and then uses this as so-called proof that the former statement of a greater name than the angels was prior to the incarnation. Okay? No, it wasn't. Since when Jesus was born, all the angels of God were told to worship him in the human form, the lowered state, slave form of human genetics with divine spirit. See Hebrews 2:6-8. This is where the greater name comes in, since it's based on Romans 1:3. Let's have a look at that. Concerning his Son, Jesus Christ our Lord, which was made of the seed of David, according to the flesh. This is where the greater name comes in, since it is based on Romans 1:3 and God's messianic throne over planet Earth, of which the angels, namely Satan, have no place. Greater names. The greater names are Wonderful, Counselor, Everlasting Father, and Prince of Peace. Note once again, one of the greater names is Everlasting Father. And that doesn't mean to be a begotten or created as a son in eternity. It means two everlasting fathers, two divines of John 1:1. Besides, the angels have no such names, and the context is when he is born, not prior to the incarnation. A child is born. A son is given. Isaiah 9:6 and Romans 1:3. That's the offspring of David. That's the Omega scenario. Notice son is within the context of the child is born, offspring, Omega, not the Alpha, not prior to the incarnation, not in eternity. The names which are greater than the angels apply to the messianic throne of David, since the first Adam lost his dominion to a fallen angel. There now exists the possibility that the angels administered this planet prior to the fall of Lucifer. The etymology of the words from Genesis, Bahu and Tohu, imply rebellion, laid waste, and desolation. The use of Micah in reference to from days of old and trying to find support for emanationism is countered by Jesus when he said that he was from above. He simply proceeded from his transcendental state of John 1:1, the Alpha scenario, the form of God, which is Philippians 2. The use of Proverbs is simply the personification of what? Wisdom. There are many examples of personification attributed to other words that we would not interpret them as being human or godlike. They are simply forms of expression to convey a metaphor. Christ, under God, is simply the Omega scenario, and the term Christ is in reference to the Messiah. If Christ was created, as stated, then Paul is a liar, and the fullness of deity is not found in him. As is pointed out, the prophecy of Paul in reference to Melchizedek, made like unto the Son of God, was missing, as well as the fact that Melchizedek had no father, mother, beginning of days, nor end of life, and was made like unto the Son of God. So the question that should be asked is the following. Who is the Son of God? Then the next question is, who was Melchizedek? Melchizedek was a theophany that appeared to Abraham. Melchizedek wasn't an office. Paul didn't state info about an office. He based the info on a personal being, and that personal being was not a Canaanite king. The emblems of Passover, bread and wine, refer to Melchizedek becoming the Son of God. The bread was his body, and the wine was his shed blood at Passover. The angel of the waters was clear, was, is, and shall be. And I heard the angel of the waters say, Thou art righteous, O Lord, which art, and wast, and shalt be. No one questions this as applying to the Father. Why? The controversy, the angel of the waters, only involves Jesus Christ. In other words, Revelation 16:5 and John 1:1. Conclusion. 1. This speaker unfortunately agrees with the creeds regarding begotten, not created, which equals barren theology. Conclusion 2. He is a false prophet. An EGW statement that was quoted was also heretical, since Paul stated that the fullness of deity resided bodily. Conclusion 3. His trumpet call is a confusing message to those not schooled in this sort of theology. One thing is certain, he will have no part in the testimony of the first angel's warning. Fear God and worship him that made. A duality. Nor can participate as an effective witness of he who made at the time of the loud cry that follows the destruction of the woman and her Vatican City by the 10 kings, as is noted in Revelation 17:16-18. And the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. For God hath put into their hearts to fulfill his will, to agree, and give their kingdom unto the beast, until the words of God shall be fulfilled. And the woman which thou sawest is that great city which reigneth over the kings of the earth. Conclusion 4. Jesus has the final say. Revelation 22:13-16. I am Alpha and Omega, the beginning and the end, the first and the last. Blessed are they that do his commandments, that they may have right to the tree of life, and may enter in through the gates into the city. For without are dogs, and sorcerers, and whoremongers, and murderers, and idolaters, and whosoever loveth and maketh a lie. I, Jesus, have sent mine angel to testify unto you these things in the churches. I am the root and the offspring of David. There's your Alpha. Here's your Omega, and the bright and morning star. Jesus has the final say. I hope that was easier. I hope this is starting to make sense. And why what was said in this video link, you will now see why it is barren theology. Until next time, God bless. If you have any questions, please feel free to write us.